Hello, everyone. This is your host, Alex Valgood. This is Leap of Health. And today we have Justin Lutch. He's a best-selling author. You can find his book now in Amazon, an audiobook, which is amazing. His book, it's called Angry as Fuck and No Idea Why. So it's a really, really cool book. He's a podcaster and a spiral practitioner. Welcome, Justin. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really pleased to be with you this morning.
Yes, and anger is a big, big topic that we all here and there talk about it. But
Mm.
this even the title of your book is like super cool because everyone, I think, we have felt this way and we don't know why. So, and before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about your story and how did you came up to like, I'm gonna write a book and become a spiral practitioner and all this?
Well, I I mean, if you look, uh, my entire life, I've been dealing with the mental health issues of anger,
Hmm.
right? And uh, I had gone through a particularly crazy time in my life where I'd ended up, I'd got to the point where I really thought, well, I spent my entire life looking for evidence I'm not loved. And you can, as you can imagine, why? If you spend if you have that kind of epiphany, and it's like, there's a good reason why you'd be angry, right?
Yeah.
um, and so I got to that epiphany, and that was probably 2014, 2015, towards the end of 2014. And I said, oh, why, why don't I just look for evidence that I am loved? And it's kind of this massive kind of physical, like 30-minute body tingling sensation of this huge, great big kind of shift that wasn't just mental, it was energetic, it was entire body kind of gestalt, I think the Jungian psychologists would call it. And I went, wow. And the very next day, my wife decided to tell me she'd met someone else and she was moving out to live with him.
Oh.
And then I was devastated and hurt by that, but I still felt loved. Father of 5 kids, still working hard as lots of good reasons why I still felt loved despite the disastrous change in my relationship status. But I was still devastated and hurt by it. So and a friend came over who he just had a bitter divorce. He was really miserable. He was a drunk. He was boorish. We had too much to drink one night, and I tried to kill him
Oh.
in a drunken rage.
Mhm.
And I knew I needed help, and that's what really got me on the journey. And I phoned someone I knew who was a coach, and I signed up for a year's worth of coaching. And then 4 weeks after that, my mum finally succumbed to cancer, and I got the phone call, please come and be with her. I don't think she's going to last very long. And so that's what got me started on the journey of delving into really who I was and what was driving me. So, my wife left me, I tried to kill my best friend, and then my mum passed away. So all of those pieces kind of act as some kind of whirlpool that got me all the way through to, right, I've really got to get some help. And during the whole time, I was back in the UK. There was a huge, great big funeral from my mum. The church was full. All these things happened. I still felt loved all the way through them, and so that was the beginning of kind of my journey 4 or 5 years ago to get to this point where I actually ended up writing the book.
Yeah.
And I started the book in 2017 because I realized that if I could help just one man not harm themselves or harm someone else like I tried to do, then it would make a huge difference. But when I came to finish the book in 2020, I realized it was all about family, and I realized it's about my grandmother. And so it wasn't just about men anymore. It was about everybody. It was about families. It was about women as much as men in terms of this choice that we have, that where we get stuck in these patterns of behavior, and it cascades down the generations, from my grandmother to my dad to my mum to myself, and it was like, I need to write this book for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. I feel sometimes that we don't understand the sort of a concept of generational trauma that we carry, whether it's, anger or whatever, all these emotionals that we carry with us. And sometimes it's like that. We are angry all the time or discontent or whatever, and we don't even know why. How do you realize it was coming from your grandma?
Um, when I started to finish the book, I got about 20,000 words written.
Hmm.
In fact, more than that. I've got close to 30,000 words written. And then I went into this coaching circle. I have a brilliant writing and publishing coach, Dave Thompson, and he runs inspirational book writers. And so they run a 7-day program so people can write a book in a week. And there's lots of people that do. And they do the coaching piece, and we're encouraged to kind of go within. So the fact that I'd actually got a week to do nothing but write, and that I could really tap into that, that's really when it was like, it kind of clicked in that I need to write about my grandmother. And that was it. So that particular writing course, they give you coaching 24 hours a day. So there are coaches based in Australia, there's coaches based in North America, so that every 3 hours for 7 days a week, there's someone there you can talk to. And so it gives you this hothouse effect, kind of like putting flowers or vegetables into a hothouse. You get this hothouse effect, which allows you to focus down and really understand what's driving you. And then I wrote another 20,000 words, and I pulled out 9,000 words and put them to one side and wrote 2 more books from those, right? And so that's what's happened, is like you get into this hothouse and it gives you the ability to focus. And so that's how I realized, well, it was my grandmother. And so, and there are some amazing coaches in that environment, and you really connecting back to your family and back into those generations, and you can feel them standing behind you almost as you begin to write, because they're part of your culture and part of your background. It's like, yes, I remember being very, very small and going to my grandmother's house with my father, and I remember all the shouting and swearing, and I couldn't understand it, because at the time I really bonded to my father, and I'd had some seriously traumatic stuff that had happened to me. It's all in the book, and the bond with my mother had been broken. So the only adult I really trusted at that time was my father, and then my grandmother was really, really angry with him. I mean, the shouting and swearing was intense. And she was the most loving, doting, beautiful grandmother to my brother and myself. So it was like this Jekyll and Hyde. Like at one moment she was beautiful and kind, looking after me and my brother. She would do anything for us. She was the sweetest grandma you could ever wish for. And then as soon as my father walked in the room, there was this massive amount of anger, and it just used to explode. It was like she resented him for even existing. And that's what the book tells you. It's like I kind of put all the pieces together and go, oh, this is why. All right. And so the book tells a story of what happened to my grandmother and how her spirit was so completely crushed, and how she took it out on my father, and why. And so that entire story came to me inside a week, and I wrote 20,000 words.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, definitely knowing what happened to, mom, dad, our grandparents, and even like our great grandparents. I think it gave us a really good insight of why we are the way we are. Like me in particular, I could share this story with you. I I I think I was angry too for many, and I feel like most of us are. And it's not like we're an angry person and I'm walking, every day angry, but it's this inner angry that gets triggered by situations or talks or whatever it is, and that's when you feel this like super angry feeling that makes you feel sick. And to me, I didn't spoke to my mother for like 15 years. I didn't see her for that long. I thought, you know, when I was like a adolescent, you know, I was a very young woman, I guess. I was in my 15, 16. I thought I could do it all. You know, I didn't need anyone. Like all teenagers think, like, "No, I don't need anyone. You know, I, I could do it all and I could survive by myself." And I did do that. I was kind of like in survival mode for many, many years.
Okay, perfect. And we are back after a brief break. Anyways, yeah, so we're talking to Justin about this whole anger and emotional and generational trauma that comes that we come with it pretty much. And something that I was talking about earlier, it was that how I didn't talk to my mother for like 15 years. And then by actually reading a lot of self books, moving meditation, and all these other modalities, that at some point I'm like, I think I need some sort of help. I realized that, you know, yes, perhaps I was angry because my mother working in the emergency room, you know, 24/7. So it was not because she wanted to leave her 3 kids at home. It was because she was looking for a better life for us. And obviously she had a lot of bills to pay and all that. But yeah, long story short, I start asking what happened to my mom, what happened to my grandma and my dad, as opposed to just being angry about the whole thing. And I like that you mentioned on the book that it's not just like you're angry and you're gonna just hide it under the rug, because at some point it's gonna trigger you. At some point it's gonna make your life miserable because you're not resolving anything. You're just hiding your emotions. And I like that you said that we need to consciously growing with this. How have you done it in your experience?
So, I mean, I've spent a lot of money, a lot of time looking for. I spent a long time. Probably spent over 12 years just going, well, what the hell is wrong with me? Why am I like this? And so, I went and did something called neurolinguistic programming. I did a lot of different personal training courses. But I never really got to the point where of going, well, you know, where and why. And so I'd spent a long time trying to understand myself. And so I think that's a trap that a lot of us fall into, is the trap of trying to understand. And until it is, and I really like what you just said about embodied dance and bits and pieces, and until we actually reconnect with our bodies, that is where we begin to get the movement forward. And it is that choice that I want to be different. I want to look for evidence that I am loved. And in my case, the breakthrough came when I was getting some help from a friend, amazing woman who does kinesiology, and in that's muscle testing, right? And so I went to her for some help, and she said, well, I don't know where this has come from. I've got this message, but you've been trying to rescue your mum all your life. And that kind of went, oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to rescue, and I've been rescuing. And so that whole piece, that whole embodiment piece of uncovering that emotion allowed everything to flow, and I began to understand why it is that that's the way I was, why I was angry, all these pieces, kind of that piece of embodiment, the muscle testing, and that opened me up. And so that process is called emotional clearing. and it works with the body, the muscle testing. And we have to understand that if we've had a really traumatic or a real largest amount of adversity, and I call them those different things, adversity and trauma, differently for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we've had a lot of that in our childhood, our minds spend a lot of time and a lot of energy blocking that out. And so if we go looking for it as a mental exercise, we're not going to find it, because we are we're kind of working, we're trying to paddle upstream against ourselves, if you like, right? The river, your consciousness is flowing you downstream. It wants you to look forward. It doesn't want you to look back at the things that it's been trying to block out for you for a long, long time. And it's only when we get into the body and we actually discover and uncover the emotions and clear those emotions, do we begin to have some kind of recall of what happened. And so for me, that was the important step, is that when I went looking for help, I didn't just go looking for help in terms of self-examination. I actually went and got help from someone who could do muscle testing and do emotional clearing. And I love that so much that when I finally got to the point of I quit work, I was burned out, I ended up burned out and almost broke, and I went and did some emotional clearing, and I did something called the spiral, and that is what finally got me to the point where I could open up and I could deal with the emotions that I've been blocking out for years, that I didn't even know that was buried in my unconscious. And so I really love that you talk about embodiment.
Nice, nice. I know what is a spiral practitioner. Can you tell us a little bit about how does that work?
Okay, so it is a combination of different things that the guy that put it together is a guy called Dane Thomas. And so he studied something called spiral dynamics, which was a technique that was put together by Dr. Claire Graves. And so it is a model for consciousness, and it is a model for how do we layer different levels of values and beliefs into our identities. So it is a model for consciousness, it's a model for identity. And what Dane did is he combined the muscle testing techniques, which then allowed people to discover at different layers of their identity as they build them up from childhood. The model by Dr. Claire Graves, it allows us to clear the big emotions with it. So in the spiral, you clear 22 different big emotions, like fear, like dogma, all right? And you clear those emotions, which are very, very common across us. So it's a structure, it's a model, but in doing that, the muscle testing is the piece that's the really core technique. And if you read Dane's original book about it, you can learn how to do this yourself. And the book is called Clear Your Shit. And that's really how Dane felt when he wrote it. And he was like, you know, we all carry this baggage around us, carry this shit around with us. And, you know, you don't have to go to anyone particularly. You could actually do this yourself. And you just have to trust your unconscious. And that's the big piece, is that if you do that and you learn how to do muscle testing, you begin to trust yourself and you begin to find these things. I was very fortunate in my case. I went to see Catherine Lyle, who's an amazing practitioner, and she does all the muscle testing. And that's how we got to the piece where I just went, oh, that's what's been going on. And that's what gave me the breakthrough that led me to become a spiral practitioner. And so when we say spiral practitioner, what do we mean? We just mean the fact that we take you through over a 7-week process when we clear those 22 emotions. The integration that comes through, you get some immediate kind of breakthroughs, but it is the gentle effect of your body relearning is the piece. And I mean your body, I don't mean your mind, your body relearning itself. So we all take a good 6 months to learn how to walk. That is muscle memory. And so when we clear the emotions, it takes a number of months for us to really integrate and settle into it. And so you know, I did the spiral probably, I was burned out and broke. It was August 2019. I decided to step in and do this because I really needed to clear what was going on. And I had a friend of mine, Kerry Kaplan-Norley, absolutely amazing coach. She said, come do the spiral with me. And so I did the spiral with her, and I was spending money I didn't have. I was like living on credit cards. I'd quit work. I didn't want to go back to work. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it was just the most incredible experience of clearing. And I'm really glad I wasn't working at the time when I did it, because it gave me the space to really clear what was going on. And I got to the Christmas Eve of 2019, and I'd run out of money. And I rang a friend, and she said, oh, I know somebody, they'll get you a bag of food. And so there I was, Christmas Eve, accepting a bag of food from strangers so I could feed my children on Christmas Day. And I was so embarrassed. I was so shamed. I felt ashamed. I felt guilty. And so I went to meet this woman, and who was this complete stranger who I didn't know. And she was like, a couple of miles away. I drove over, I met her, I picked up this bag of food, and I just cried. And she was a wonderful woman, 2 little children. She gave me a hug and sent me on my way, right? A real angel, right, on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I got a job offer to come and work here where I'm working now, in Singapore. I've been applying for the role. I've done lots of different interviews. And then I got this phone call that said, oh, well, we'd like to make you a job offer. And so I went from absolute rock bottom on Christmas Eve, having no children, having no food for my children for the next day, to, oh, it's finally here. I've got what I've been looking for. And so the contrast of from rock bottom to there's a way out was huge. And I attribute that to doing the spiral. If I hadn't done the spiral, I wouldn't have hung in there. I wouldn't have hung in there. I would have been hiding out. I would not have turned up. I would have not turned up for that bag of food. I couldn't have allowed myself to be with that much shame and guilt.
Right.
And I would not have been in a position to even answer the phone when somebody called to offer me a job,
Yeah. I always hear this thing that we're always where we need to be, even though it feels not the greatest. And even though we're like, no money, no place to live, or whatever it is, the trouble that you're going through, we're there for a reason. And I'm glad, everything turned out well. And I'm glad you are in an amazing city as Singapore now. And I am glad you wrote this book. I think this book has really good insights for everyone that, like me, I had one of my best friends. He will always tell me for years, I've known him for 20 years. And earlier in those years, he will tell me, I think you're angry. And like any other people, I was like, you know what? I am not angry. And I said that for many, many, many years until recently, I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago, when, doing inner work and realizing, there is a fact, I'm not walking around angry, but there was little things, words that people will tell me, situations or whatever, that will literally, just like your grandma, will become Jekyll and Hyde in a second.
Yes.
And so I was like, maybe I am a little bit angry, and I don't know why. So doing the work and trying to, find yourself. And this is not like you're going to go through, you're going to read this book and you're going to be cured, or you're going to do certain modality and all your emotional baggage is going to be clear. We're not saying that, definitely not. Our lives, I think, are whole life journey. It's the whole time that we're gonna continue learning everything that we need to at the time that we're ready for it.
Oh, look, I'm hoping that the book gets people to choose to get help, because that's really what the book is about. It's like, go and get some help. I personally, obviously, really love the spiral and being a spiral practitioner. I mean, I've been searching for years and years and years to find something that was really, really effective, that had a rapid effect,
Right.
and that allowed me to get access to those parts of me that I'd shut away. I put into a box, closed the box, sealed the lid, and hidden in the basement, right? And so
Yes.
there are many other spiral practitioners, and we both know the amazing and wonderful Erika Briones, and she's an amazing spiral practitioner based in California.
Yes.
And there are lots of other spiral practitioners in North America as well, and so you know, and it's an opportunity the book is an opportunity to really get to understand yourself a little bit more, to understand why you're there. And so, Alex, I want to ask you, so tell me more about the situation with your mom. You know, let's understand that a little bit more. Are you okay to talk about it? Because I want to hear the story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so pretty much I think from the work I've done is that, yeah, I think not having her close when I was like growing up, because literally she will like you know, send us to either her mom or my other grandma, and so everybody kind of like took care of us but herself. And so obviously when you're a younger kid, you don't understand why mom is not here, let alone my parents got divorced when I was 6.
Yes.
So, and then my dad passed away when I was 18. So it's a lot of like losses, I think, throughout my life. But yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think I was listening to someone on the radio or something that it said that in order to understand more of yourself, you definitely need to know who has come before you. And so that was when I was like, you know what? I need to reconnect to my grandma. I need to know who she is.
Yeah.
And I need to reconnect to my mom that I haven't talked to her in 15 years.
Yeah.
So definitely knowing what my mom has gone through, even in her earlier years as a child, definitely gave me the understanding of like, okay, that's why she was angered at times. That's why, you know, she was also in this survival mode of like, I need to get these 3 kids to school and all that a good mom does. And I gotta say, now she's one of my best friends, and life has turned much better, and I feel less angry for sure. And now I understand when I get triggered. So that's like huge.
Yeah, because there's nothing wrong with being angry. It's the
Right.
fact that being self-aware enough to realize you've been triggered, and then you go, is this appropriate, right? Is it an appropriate level of anger? Is it an out of control anger? I mean, because anger in itself is not a bad thing.
Right, definitely. I think just acknowledging why we feel certain way, I think it makes us understand ourselves better. So yeah, I now believe that we all carry a little bit of anger, whether it's because of mom, dad, or whoever,
or generations past.
and we carry that with and we carry that with in our lives, and sometimes we pass down that to our kids. So being conscious about it, I think it breaks that chain. And you know, trying to make this world a better world, definitely. Yeah, for sure. This has been amazing. Thank you for you know, being here with us. I know you're in Singapore and you're like a million hours
15 hours ahead,
but
15 hours ahead of Pacific time, that's for sure.
Yeah. So it was great. I know this book is gonna touch a lot of lives. The power of storytelling, it's so powerful, and I think that's why we like to tell our stories, because you know, sooner or later we're gonna touch someone's life, and we might change that life. So it's great. Thank you for the book. To everybody that's listening to us today, do grab a book. He's on Amazon. It's a really, really great book. So do that. I think you're on Audible too now. So for everybody
Yes.
that drives in LA for like 1,000,000 hours, you could get it on Audible. I do. I love Audibles because I drive for 1,000,000 hours. So definitely do that. And if anyone wants to get in contact with you, where can they find you?
They can find me at justinlodge.info. And yes, thank you very much. Yes, the book is available on Amazon, and I've just launched the audio edition. So yes, for everyone that's got a long commute, then you can listen to me narrate my own story and my grandmother's story. And I thank you so much, Alex, for interviewing me today. I'm really, really honored and grateful that you've chosen to spend this time with me. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening today. If you need to get in contact with me, you can go at alexbobgood.com. You can find me on social media at alexbobgood. And I will put all of our information in the show notes. So if you need to contact either of us, you can go ahead and do that. And thank you again, and have a blessed day today.
Yeah, thank you.